Okay, let's hear what you got. No, don't like that. That's better. I like that. That's the one.
Welcome to episode 4 of Chats. Today we are talking about social media. This is part 2 out of the 2-part series we're doing here on Chats, where we're going to be talking about the negatives of social media. If you missed the part 1, which was the positives of social media, go back and listen to episode 3, where we talk about the positives. I am Corbin.
I'm Sarah.
And as you guys heard, we are talking about the negatives of social media, which there are quite a few, but we will
We'll just hit the highlights or the lowlights, depending on how you want to look at it.
So, I think I'm going to start off with my least favorite social media, which is Instagram.
Oh,
which is
that's
your
interesting.
favorite.
Yeah.
I feel Instagram is the most toxic out of them all.
Okay.
I feel like, to my generation at least, because everyone has it. I know a lot of people who just have Instagram who don't have anything else. And it's because of the whole obsession of likes and follows and living their quote-unquote best life. I've just seen that so much, and I've seen it firsthand, and that's why I think I dislike it so much. Because it's the biggest offender of people not living their lives.
Okay.
Everyone, for the gram and all that sayings and all that, it's real. And I think the only positive thing that's happened with Instagram lately is that they've hidden the amount of likes in our area. Because they were only doing it in certain countries. I don't think the states have that yet. But because it's a huge thing for people. People value their self-worth on likes, and for a while, I felt I was as well. And that's not the case at all. And now that they're not showing that, I feel that it's helping. But it's also just toxic because of the celebrities on there. Because a lot of them, like models and stuff like that, they're jobs which are considered, they're just called Instagram models, right?
Yeah.
And they're showing just, once again, a fake life, like the highlights of their life, right? And it's just, to me, that's the most toxic. That's the worst. I feel like it's Snapchat. It's the worst of Facebook and Twitter combined, because you have your friends and people you want to talk to and share stuff with on Instagram, because you're sharing it with your friends, you're seeing your friends as well. And then you have the celebrity on there of Twitter, like, because the celebrity presence on Facebook isn't as strong as Twitter and Instagram. And you have the worst of that, where they're giving their opinions, they're selling you stuff. There's so many people.
The whole influencer culture.
Yeah. And it's the worst of the influencer culture and the friendship, bubble type thing. And for me, I think it's just sad to see that. And I really have a dislike for Instagram, mostly.
Oh, okay.
Snapchat's not that bad, but I find that it's just a waste of time, as most social media probably is, I can see. But Facebook I like just because a lot of my family has it, and that I don't follow a lot of other people on Facebook. And then we've already gone over the positives of Twitter, but I think taking it too seriously is the biggest offender of Instagram and social media in general, is people my age taking it too seriously, thinking that's the pinnacle of who they are.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think to extend that further, I think that it has negatively impacted a lot of people's mental health in that regard. When people say, "Oh, I don't understand why, there's so much talk about illness or lack of mental health in young people, or why there's depression issues. Well, I would suggest that there's this culture that's been created, thanks in large part to social media, where young people don't feel seen or validated unless they have a certain number of followers, or, as you said, likes or feedback or comments and that type of thing, which can lead into a very dangerous area that I'm familiar with my day job, which I'm not going to get into too much, but I do work with kids, and I talk to them a lot of times about social media, and as far as how many of them have. We do a little game where we'll say, do you have 100 followers? Do you have 200 followers? Do you have 300? And I usually stop at 500 followers. As far as doing the little hand survey. And the reason I do that is because of what I say next, which is, I'm what many would consider middle age. Yeah. And I don't know 500 people that I would want to share that type of content with. So for someone who is in grade 6 or grade 9, grade 11, to say that they have 500, 700 followers, that is coming out
Scratches your head.
Well, it comes out of a celebrity-obsessed culture where you feel you're only important if you, or that's where you're trying to identify with someone in that way, is that I'm more important than someone else because I have more followers. To really go deep dive on the negativity of social media, we know that because a lot of young people don't have a lot of editing going on with people that follow them, we know this is a really easy way for people who are looking to engage with young people, whether it's child predators, sex predators, that type of individual who really doesn't have your best interest at heart. That is the best way for them to reach out to you, because your security settings will be so low and you're so focused on having the follower that you don't care that this person is actually using your photos for something less than honorable. I will flat out say to a young person, you posted this photo of yourself in almost an invisible bathing suit or lingerie. Excuse me. And you posted that because you thought, a cute guy or another cute girl would see it. You thought that would be appealing. What you don't realize is someone is masturbating to that photo. Yeah. They are actually using that photo again for illegal activity. They could be posting that photo on a porn site. Yeah. And I think young people don't realize that. Whenever I make that comment, the look on their faces is always, well, first of all, I think they disbelieve me, that I'm crazy and I'm out of touch and I don't know what I'm talking about. Well, but the other part is you can almost see them doing an audit of their friend list, of thinking, I don't know who all these people are, or the comments that somebody made to me are inappropriate. So I then follow up with the next exercise, which is, how many of you, I got a frog in my throat.
Something like that.
Something's bugging me. How many of you have either been asked to provide an inappropriate photo or have had an inappropriate photo sent to you with the intent of soliciting one from you in your direct messages? And 9 times out of 10, everybody who put their hand up will put their hand up again. Yeah. So they know it's happening. They just don't think it's going to happen to them. They think it's not going to be real, which is scary because it is real, and we're seeing all kinds of terrible things happening to young people. Whether it's, they will die by suicide because someone has taken their photo and blackmailed them with it, or their reputation has been completely shredded because of this interaction they have with someone who was trying to do them harm.
Well, and that's the one thing I searched up a while ago, was the rate of suicides, like teen suicides or just suicides in general, that happen because of social media. Yeah. And they don't release it. They don't have any statistics on it at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because it's not being tracked, or they don't want to share that number?
That I don't know, but there were no answers to what that percentage number looked like. But the one thing that I was going to say is about the security, they don't promote it, which I think is wrong.
Yeah, you do too.
I only know that stuff, and I only have it set up on my social medias, or I had it set up on my social medias because you knew about it. But so many people that post far, far, far more personal and arguably worse stuff than I do don't have any of that protection, and that's the scary part. And that's where I think people can say it's the user, not the controls. But on the other hand, the controls haven't given the user the whole picture.
Well, and how many times, whether you sign up for a platform or there's an
user
update,
agreement.
yeah, those user agreements, I'm sorry, I think that, and of course I've done the same thing. It's like, I know I want to use Facebook, so I have to sign the user agreement. But what absolutely blows my mind is there's still, and I know there have been updates to these agreements, they are still legalese. They are still 10 times too long. They are still basically a cover your ass step for the platform, and it's not doing enough to protect the user, which is all kinds of wrong. So I would agree with you that certainly mental health and addiction or sorry, I was going to get into addiction. I was going to say mental health and with concerns for suicide prevention. It's got to be part of the dialogue. People have to understand that that's a real problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually looked up for addiction, and partially because of myself, because I do use social media personally. I also use it professionally. And for me, I've noticed myself, and you've seen it, where I will check my work platforms on a regular basis. Here's another topic for a chats episode, work-life balance. But as far as saying, I feel not anxious, but I'm very aware that it's been a certain period of time since I've checked the platforms, and that I should be checking in on them to make sure everything's okay, which that pattern in and of itself can create addiction.
Yeah.
So I looked up, there's an article in the on the Washington Post website dated April 25th, 2018, where they're talking about, or they asked the question, do you think you have an addiction to social media? And there's actually some questions here.
What year was this? 2015 or 2018?
No, 18, just last year,
okay.
yeah. So do you spend a lot of time when you are not online thinking about social media or planning to use social media? For you, no?
Oh, you're asking me.
Yeah.
If I had to say yes or no, I would say, coming from where I was on social media, yes, because it doesn't make sense now where I'm not on social media. I don't think of it. But
at the time.
At the time I was on social media, yes.
And I would say for me, yes. And again, that's a work.
Yeah.
I'm not using it as an excuse, but it is very much a consideration when your work is utilizing a social media platform.
For sure, yeah.
So the next one is, do you feel urges to use social media more and more over time? I would say for me, I have felt that with certain platforms. I don't use personal Twitter very often at all. Again, I'm more of an observer than a user of Twitter.
Yeah, same here.
But to Instagram, more active on that. Facebook, that varies. So I don't think I've got more urges. I would say I'm okay there.
I'd say no for me as well, but I'd say yes for the average person, because social media wants you to keep coming back.
Well, it's the addictiveness of it, right?
Well, no, but they will do anything they can. It's kind of like YouTube. YouTube is an odd thing where it's kind of social media. It's not. I love watching YouTube. I think it's very interesting. It's an interesting free source of very good content a lot of the time. But the algorithm there is they will show you videos that, like the recommended videos, that they think you will like. Because they want you on there constantly.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes for all the other ones. People can say, well, maybe not, but I can 100% say for myself, I 100% believe that they have those algorithms in place to keep you coming back.
Keep you on the hook.
Yeah.
Do you use social media to forget about personal problems? For me, no.
No.
You're okay there?
Yeah.
Do you often try to reduce your use of social media without success? I've not consciously... Oh, no, that's not true. I have reduced my social media use when I'm on vacation.
Yeah.
I've made more of an effort the last several months to not use my social media on weekends. Unless I'm specifically doing something that, and actually I'm getting better just taking photos and saving them and posting them later as opposed to posting in the moment.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people miss stuff in the moment. How many times do you see people at a concert?
Yeah.
And all the phones are up and they're recording it? It's like, if this is such an amazing event that you want to capture it, why aren't you living it?
Yeah.
Right?
That's what I was saying in the first episode, or the part one of the episode of the positives of social media, is that now I'm living my social media. I'm there, say, enjoying the concert instead of
Yeah.
living through my social media. I am living my social media.
Right.
And I find that a lot, that I used to do that, where I'd post in the moment because I
Yeah.
want to get it out. I wanted to show everyone.
Yeah.
And now it's like, man, this is a great moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm here in the moment
Doing
experiencing it. And I'm like, and I think back, a year ago from now, a couple months from now, or ago, I would be reaching for my phone and wasting this moment. But
Yeah.
I just think in the moment where I'm like, I'm glad I'm not wasting it, or using part of that moment to post.
what's happening.
Yeah.
So to answer that for you, you have reduced your social media, and it has been with success.
Yes.
Okay.
I've done it twice. Once for a whole summer just as an experiment, and it worked well. This time I think it might be for a lot longer, just because
It's working for you.
It's working for me, and Twitter's been kind to me. So
Do you become restless or troubled if you are unable to use social media?
I'd say, like, still talking about when I had social media, I'd say yes.
Well, how about when you were phasing out of social media? Did you find it
For the first bit,
addictive that you had to like keep checking in?
for the first bit, I'd say yes, but that's just because it would be because people would say, "Have you seen this post? Did you see what I sent you?"
Oh, you felt you were missing out on something?
Yeah, on one part, but also I wanted to see the content.
Oh,
If someone
okay.
posts something on
Be in the
Instagram,
loop on it.
yeah. So say like a celebrity posting on Instagram,
Yeah.
and one of my friends sent it to me. It's like, unless they show me and I see them daily for them to show me, I can't see what that celebrity posted. It's not like
Right.
if you took a photo of your baking and showed it to me.
Of my baking. I
What?
love how you said it, because I do take pictures
Yeah.
of my baking. I'm
But,
kind of
like,
lame that way.
No, and if you show me that, it's not like I can. But if it's not like, say, Kim Kardashian is going to show me what she posted.
Yes, I understand.
So there is a lot of exclusive content on there. And for the first part, well, people didn't realize I was off of it because you can't tell if someone's on it or off of it. That was kind of hard because people still thought I was on it. But now it's smooth sailing, and people most of the time, if it's worth showing, they will get it to me somehow.
And that's a good point. I want to come back to the response to you being on off social media.
Yeah.
So remind me that
Sure,
before we
yeah.
wrap up. I would say for me, I don't become restless or troubled. Like I say, I kind of have this kind of internal alarm clock that goes, "Hey, you haven't checked." And I do find that my attention span is reduced, which I think a lot of people find that.
Yeah.
And as far as, even something as simple as waiting in the line before, to check out with your groceries, out comes the phone, as does everyone else's.
Yeah.
It's almost like we can't be bored. We can't be static without having some kind of interaction. So I'm not sure that I necessarily agree with restless or troubled, but I would say there's definitely
A need.
yeah, there's
slight need. It's
I
not
notice it.
Yeah.
The last one is, do you use social media so much that it has had a negative impact on your job, relationship, or studies? And I would challenge you to answer this when you were using social media.
No, 100%.
You feel it did?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I would say that it was negative in almost all senses. Just, to me now, I felt this way when I got rid of it for the summer, and I just thought it's a waste.
Time burner.
Yeah. But for things like, the biggest thing, as we said, for the positives, is that it's a great communication system. And group chats can be made quite easily on Snapchat and things like that. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of school stuff going on where there's a lot of group chats. Mm-hmm. So that's how I got drawn back into it after the summertime.
Right.
But now I'm not in school. I don't have to worry about that. And I don't have any group chats, and I don't want to see what other people are like, the negativity, because I find in general negativity on social media is always at an all-time high. The other night I told you about a positive video that Chris Evans on Twitter shared.
Yes. Yeah, it was great.
And
Yeah.
it was of this kid on Halloween, tiny little kid, walked up to a bowl at a house where they weren't handing out. They just had a bowl of
yeah.
candy, and it was empty, which was sad. And the kid took a handful of his candy and poured it into the bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And the mom said, like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I want to make sure the other kids get some candy too," because he was kind of sad that there wasn't any candy, but
He realized there could be kids coming behind
yeah.
him.
And the thing that scared me the most out of that, which you don't think that'd be a scary thing, is that I was kind of spooked by it. because I'm not used to seeing positivity on social media, and that's what got the wheels turning in my brain. Is that's insane. That's worrisome. That when I see something positive, it kind of catches me off guard.
Yeah.
It unsettled me a lot,
Yeah.
and it's like, it's sad because you want to see that. That's great positivity, but it's so few and far between on social media.
Yeah.
And I think that's sad. And obviously, I think a lot of those positive videos that involve kids, I thought about it when I saw that video of the kid with the Halloween candy, is that kid doesn't have social media, and I thought, he's not recording, because there are some people who will make videos or things like that where like, oh, I donated money to this or that, or I gave food to a homeless person. Everything on social media they're putting there for exposure,
Has to be
views,
documented and
stuff like that.
Yeah.
That kid, if he was older and he did that, he'd be with his phone in front of him Snapchatting it, saying, oh, I'm going to give some candy back or something like that.
Yeah.
Or he just wouldn't do it.
That actually brings up an interesting point about young people, like minors, as far as social media and how they are exposed on it. I'm not talking in an appropriate way. It's a whole separate topic. But there are people who, from the time their child is born, will create either a hashtag or create an account for their child on a various social media platforms. Usually it's Instagram or something like that, because it's photo based. And there's a big debate about whether or not that is an appropriate thing to do, because it's not that child creating that account. Is that appropriate or not? And that'd be interesting to hear back from our viewers to see what they think about that, because I know there's two very distinct and profound points of view as to whether or not that's appropriate, because it's the parents that are inputting the content until the child takes over. So what mom thinks is cute, I'm pretty sure, a 15-year-old boy or 15-year-old girl is not going to think is nearly as adorable if they've got that history accumulated over time. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to check in with you about just before we wrap up today is, because you've done this experiment a couple times now with removing yourself from social media, what has been the response from your friends? Have people been understanding and accepting of the decision, or has there been any kind of backlash or negativity toward you for stepping away from it?
A little bit of the negativity, but the majority is, right at first, it's disappointment.
Why?
Because it's almost like they feel like I'm abandoning them somehow. It's weird. It's like,
or maybe you figured out something they haven't figured out yet?
Maybe. But I followed before, because in between the summer where I got rid of all of the social media, and then I got back on it, all the way to now. When I went back onto social media, I made a point of unfollowing practically everyone and then going back and following only the people I wanted. So I went from...
So you edited your list.
So I went from maybe following 500 people to following 30.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And a lot of people who I'd consider friends, not close friends or best friends, got very upset by this. And I thought, I see you every day. I talk to you every day. I usually see what you're posting, like, in real life every day. I don't know if it's crazy. I don't know if I'm just around that curve right now where I can see what they don't see, because some of them were younger. And it's just, they just took it so personally. You
abandoned them.
I abandoned them, and it's crazy. So at first it's disappointment, but most of the people that at least I care about their opinions, they're understanding, accepting, and they work around it. As I said, if they want to show me a photo, they'll show me in person, or they'll just work around it. And that's the true friends and followers.
Yeah.
That you want to be with you.
Yeah.
And I find it funny, going a odd reference to Batman Forever from the 90s.
Oh, I knew there had to be a Batman reference at some point.
At some point, here
Buckle
we go.
up, kids. Here's a Batman reference.
Yeah. In the movie Batman Forever with Val Kilmer and Jim Carrey, the scene...
The classic one.
Yeah. There's the scenes when... I watched this movie when I was a kid a lot. And there's a scenes where the Riddler, Jim Carrey, puts this thing on people, and it like sucks them into the TV.
Right, makes them it brainwashes them.
Practically.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing this and like, this is such a crazy idea. This is, because this is back in the early 2000s. Obviously, Facebook hadn't even started yet. And I was like, such a crazy comic book idea. Like, wow. Like, so crazy. And now it's real life, and it's kind of weird. It's kind of scary. Not coming off as the guy who knows it all. I certainly don't. But I think when it comes to social media, I think I kind of can see through the illusion of grandeur that they're trying to promote. And the one thing I also wanted to say about the negativity, when I went on that whole rant about negativity, is that the biggest and arguably the first major social media site, Facebook, started off with negativity. It started off as face smash.
Yeah. To find ways to rate people and dismiss people. And it all starts with that little seed. And not saying that everything about it's negative. It's funny that it was birthed by something negative. And now it's kind of coming back around where people are seeing that almost. Well, we could have spent a whole another episode on the politics of what's going on with Facebook right now with the whole idea of them not banning inaccurate political ads or political ads in general. Twitter is saying they will not air broadcast on their platform political advertisements. So it's interesting to see that because again, there's so much influence there. You know, we didn't even get into the political side of it because talk about your deep dive. But it'll be interesting to see what happens because my generation did not grow up with social media. It's something that was introduced to us when we were adults. Your generation has pretty much had social media from if not from the get-go, from certainly your very socially developed years, you know, being a preteen and older. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see whether you're kind of an example of what's going to happen with your generation, where people will actually have burnout or fatigue of social media and will move away from it again. Yeah. Or if it's a case of this is actually, you know, you're weird. And there's actually a lot of people that are going to stay with social media, and this is going to be a whole new fundamental of humanity, and this is going to be something that is required for people to function and exist in society. I think that's going to be a real interesting social experiment.
Yeah, we'll have to come back to this topic at another time, but
we need to decompress from this one.
But
I'd like to hear from people. If you could let us know, you know, we asked about positive experiences on social media. So if after hearing today's episode, if you have any thoughts, feedback, criticisms, critiques, let us know. Our email address is chatspodcast@gmail.com. That's chatspodcast, CHATSPODCAST @gmail.com. And again, you can check in on our Facebook page. Let us know what you thought of this episode. Maybe give us some suggestions about what you'd like to hear us talk about.
And let's make our Facebook page one of the few positive spaces on social media.
You know what? I like that. I think that's a really good point, because we've kind of talked about, you know, we actually spent more time on the negatives, just looking at how much time we've taken today. There's a lot of negatives, and I think we have the power to make it a positive. And I think you're right. I think if there's a way to say something, which we talked about in our intro episode, there's a way to communicate something. If you want to critique something in a positive and informative way, you know, positive feedback or not positive feedback. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. Constructive
criticism, that's it. So if you want to do it that way, but I think it would be interesting to share more positivity on social media and put it out there. So feel free to check us out on Facebook and
give me a reason. Thoughts. Give me a reason to come back to social media. That's a challenge for all the listeners.
Well, and you will help out with the page, but it's as far as personal stuff, you're not so much.
As I said in the positives, I have no problem with the majority of Facebook and Twitter. So, but anyways. This has been me, Corbin.
And Sarah.
And thank you guys for listening, and make sure to join us for our next chat.